Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the OK Grognard Show. It is Wednesday, October 7th, 2020, 10 a.m. Central in beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Wednesday's campaign discussion day, of course. And we're going to be looking at first edition AD&D in the DMG, where it talks about a single player with multiple PCs, multiple player characters. And we'll get into that in just a few minutes. But first, let's remind everybody that this weekend is Autumn Revel. It's a virtual game event being put on by the good folks at GaryCon. And it's looking pretty good. The Saturday event that I'm running in Steading with the Giants has one seat left. And the Sunday event has two. So if you're interested, obviously we can fire it. I put 6 seats out there. Good morning, George. I put 6 seats out there for each event to fill. And having 1 and 2 left for a brand new virtual convention is not a surprise. It's a first edition game. It's 9th level plus for the PCs. It is an homage to the old Giants modules and all of the renditions that were spawned by them over the years in Dungeons and Dragons, but it takes place a couple of generations later in the setting. We started it off last week on Saturday, and I say started it off because I'm working with this as if it was a small sandbox setting. So the people that played last Saturday, any of them that play again, can use the same characters that they had before, and we will set those characters aside and allow anybody who's new that's playing in it to choose from a pool of characters that have not yet been used. So I ran it last Saturday. I'm running it this Saturday, this Sunday, and I have 2 events on the schedule for Gamehole Con on a Saturday and a Sunday as well. And I may actually run it in between now and then in late October, just for the heck of it. We will see. We will see. These are the scheduled ones for now. 2 this weekend, 2 the weekend of Gamehole Con, which is the 7th and 8th, I believe, of November. That first full weekend, 5 to 8, is Gamehole Con. So hopefully they'll be... I don't know, George, you know about this? Hopefully they'll be doing a, what am I looking for? Sign-ups, registrations. Are they doing that just yet? Do you know? Have you been keeping tabs on that? I should probably check that out myself. I'm running quite a bit, so I'm doing the shows as seminars those 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So they're a little bit longer than normal. They'll go out to about 50 minutes-ish. And that'll give people that come to them time to get themselves ready for their next hour's event. But also it'll make sure that they don't have a half-hour shaped hole in their schedule. If I only did a regular half-hour show or thereabouts, it might leave some folks with some dead time. And cons are fun that way, right? You expect them to be very busy. There it is. 9, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. Oh, yeah, last weekend was the thing. So oh, yeah, but it's 9 is Friday. Because Gamehole Con, is it? Am I confusing things? Let me check a darn calendar. How tough is that, Mark? November. Oh, this is the Autumn Revel. This is this weekend. The Gamehole Con is 5, 6, 7, and 8. Sounds like we're starting to dance there, right? 5, 6, 7, 8. Autumn Revel, 9, 10, 11, 12. Oh, I know what's weird about that, because they do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. And I think that has something to do with Luke's schedule, making it easier for him to go through to Monday and not start until... I don't think the convention actually starts till 4 o'clock on Friday, schedule-wise, this weekend. We're just doing shows for this on the 10th and 11th. We won't do the news and announcement show as if it's a seminar or anything, because what would you do? Teach people how to do announcements for gaming? I guess you could. Some people would probably benefit from that. I know I would. What do we got here? Why am I... Look at that, right in the way of this. I'm kind of bigger than normal, aren't I, there? Am I too big? I could tighten it up a little bit, move myself over so that I'm not in the... Microphone's not blocking the Facebook URL for GaryCon. GaryCon.com. Man, I'll tell you, I missed it last March. That was the 12th, would have been the 12th year in a row of having a convention right here in beautiful Lake Geneva. And although I've only been up here 7 years, I've been going to the con the whole time. My first Gen Con was back when that used to be here in Lake Geneva in 1975. So I have a long relationship with Lake Geneva in gaming conventions up here. So it's left a pretty big hole in my heart when it had to be canceled. Nobody's fault, just the way it is, but it's sad nonetheless. But look, we're not here to whine and moan about who's getting hurt by this darn pandemic, because everyone is. And that would be a lot of whining and moaning we'd have to do. So what do we got? Well, we're looking at some stuff in the DMG. And what specifically are we looking at? Well, we're looking at that section on multiple characters for a single player, baby. Oh, yeah. Oh, you know we are. I'm going to smallify myself even more. Oh, yeah, it's a word, smallify. Don't you forget it. Now, for me, on my screens, I need to pop this up over here so I can read it. So, there is no absolute prohibition regarding multiple characters belonging to a single player. Where it is deemed beneficial, the Dungeon Master may allow multiple characters as he or she sees fit. For instance, when the major character of a player is off on some special trip, he or she may be allowed to use a new character rather than playing the part of one of his or her character's henchmen. In fact, one player can have several characters, providing he or she is a good cooperative campaign participant capable of properly handling such multiple roles. In general, the multiple characters belonging to a single player should not be associates. One should not know information or be able to communicate knowledge which is peculiar to him or her to the other. One such character should not automatically regard another controlled by the same player as a friend. Money and or valuable items cannot be freely interchanged. In short, each such character must be played as an individual. As DM, you must be prepared to step in and take the part of one such character if the player is abusing the privilege of having multiple characters. Do so quickly and firmly, and the player will be likely to understand that you will brook no foolishness, particularly if the character you take the persona of becomes hostile and aggressive to demands from the other. In campaigns where there are only a few players, where only a few of the many players are really good players, or where only a few of the many players are really good players, it is likely that each good, a parenthetical, it is likely that each good player will have several characters. Over the course of many games, some will be on reasonable, if not friendly terms with others, some will avoid others, and some will actually be enemies. Explain to your players that you don't object to them having multiple characters if they are willing to play each as a separate and distinct individual, and that should be sufficient advice to any player capable of handling 2 or more characters. Well, there you go. So, mainly the advice here in the DMG just filled my Saturday game. George, thank you very much. He'll have a good time. We'll all have fun. The advice here in the DMG for multiple characters is mainly... I need a little more light here. I'm sitting in the dark, aren't I? How's that? That's a little better. I'm wearing my new Autumn Revel shirt that I just got in the mail yesterday, as a matter of fact. Some of it's going to get messed up by the green screen, so we won't dwell on it. We know what the logo looks like. The advice here in the DMG for multiple characters for a single player mainly revolves around whether or not the player has the facility to handle playing multiple characters without having them automatically be a conglomerate or a faction unto themselves. We all know that something, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, so it's not even as if a player with 2 characters just has that much more strength, but rather it's exponential, or it multiplies. Throw in a third, a fourth, whatever, and suddenly you've got this cabal and other players who are perhaps only interested in playing one character, or don't really have their sea legs yet, so one character is about all they can handle playing or should be playing. And let me state for the record, I personally think most players should only have one character. Certainly only one character in play at any given time. Having a backup character ready to go in case something untoward happens to yours, so that you don't have to sit and wait while other people are playing. What happens if you die 5 minutes into an adventure and you've been planning with 5 other players or 10 other players to go at it for 5 hours that night? You don't want that person having to sit there and roll up a character and be out of the action for that long, especially if there is action going on right at that time. So it's good to have a backup character at the ready. If that is the intent of having multiple characters, I'm firmly on board. Having several characters that you're running at the same time, as if each one is your character and they're all equally important, is a tricky thing. I don't think most players can do it well and keep them separate mentally or spiritually, if you will. I think that they will often automatically have them gravitate toward one another in a beneficial way, even if it's subtle. This character won't vie for a particular thing from a treasure because they want that player wants it in the hands of this other character that they're also running. So instead of this character, when a item might be the most powerful or most valuable, and most normal player characters should be interested in that item, this player might have that character stand aside and let the other one get it for reasons that have to do with the player rather than the characters. And that, you want to avoid that. So that's where I land on this. It's also difficult when you've got multiple. Now, if you have, there's an exception to this. Let me also add that I find that there is a major exception to this when you have a situation of having very few players. I'm not a guy who likes to DM a game for just one player. I know that there are places in the world where you can only get together, and we're talking face to face here, obviously. A virtual game is another animal, and we'll kind of leave that aside for a moment. But in face to face games, just playing with one other player and that player having a handful of characters to create an adventuring party, I don't know. I just find the interaction of one-on-one to be awkward when I'm DMing. So I think I've only ever run games with as few as two players rather, whether they had multiple characters or not. I also have had regular ongoing campaigns where, due to a weather incident or some other calamity or conflict, where enough players canceled that I would get down to 2 or 3 players. And if I'm used to having 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 players and I get down to 3 players, I'll usually cancel at that point. Because most of what I've been gearing the campaign for, and I dare say I'm competent enough as a DM to make adjustments on the fly, but maybe I don't want to. Maybe what they've been dealing with and what they want to continue to deal with, whether there's 3 players there or 10 players there, is of a difficulty level that having 10 players makes it a possibility to overcome the obstacles and difficulties in that particular target, goal, whatever. But maybe taking just 3 players, each with 1 character, or even if they have a couple of extra characters going along, might be way too weak to deal with what they're hoping to go up against. So I will cancel a game. I will often cancel a game where we are at a severe deficit of players, and therefore also characters, for reasons such as that. Plus, you don't want, if you've got that many people missing from a game on a given week, and you play weekly most of the year round, and then you don't want that, all those players missing out on the fun that's been developed, the camaraderie amongst the players. Sure, it's okay for some players to have a closer bond with other players, either personally or through their characters to have a closer bond. There should be that within. There should be some dynamics like that around the table and with these characters. But as they say here in the DMG, in the advice herein, as Gary says, you do not want, one player with 2 or 3 characters and they're all best buds and will look out for each other, and then another player who has 2 or 3 characters and they're all best buds. And then you got yet another player who's got one character, and none of the other player characters want to be friends with his player character because he's like the odd man out, because they've already got their factions and they've drawn their lines in the sand as to who they'll go to bat for in a dangerous situation, who they'll step up for when a fight breaks out in a dungeon and so's getting clobbered. They'll run to his defense rather than run to the defense of the lone character, and that kind of stuff can bleed over into the relationships of the players too, and you certainly don't want any kind of animosity building because in the game the player characters have some animosities. So you got to be careful about that. I don't know. It's just all pretty good campaign advice, I guess. Things that I personally look out for and have run up against. So I assume this is stuff that translates and becomes useful for other people to pick up on. We'll see. There's not a ton more to say about this in particular. George, do you have any thoughts that, or anybody else who's in the stream chat have any thoughts about this particular subject when it comes to campaigns? I think I should say too that for those who know the show and know my style of DMing at this point, I don't allow evil characters, evil PC characters in my games, and I don't even, I kind of frown on chaotic neutral characters, selfish characters, and I stress the fact that if you're joining my game, you should think of yourself as part of a team and think of your characters as joining up to be parts of teams as well. So I flat out state that people should be of that mindset when they come in, but not everybody does that. So maybe I don't run up against some of the problems that other DMs run into. George says, depends on knowing your players. I like one per player and no evil as you do. Yeah, it's straightforward. It avoids a lot of awkwardness that leaving it more open engenders, right? I'm not saying you're asking for trouble if you allow a lot of player characters and you allow evil in your campaign, but you're certainly opening the door for some problems that will not arise if you don't allow those things in the first place. So, yeah. If, however, you have no internet connection, so you're not going to play virtually, you're playing face to face, and you're in the middle of northern Alaska, and there's only 2 people anywhere nearby who actually also play, so these are your players. I've got 2 player characters at least, just in these 2 players, and I want to run my campaign, but I kind of want to run some adventures that require a broader party, a fuller party. Well, you can do henchmen and hirelings and things like that. They can be skilled, so they can be classed like PCs. A guy who's running a paladin can also run a sort of not a secondary character, but a specialist who's a cleric. Would make very good sense. A fellow who's running a wizard might need a toady to help out with certain things, and if that specialist just happens to have abilities like a thief character, well, you get the 4 basic food groups covered now, right? You got a fighter in your paladin. It's a co-op and team game, says George. Absolutely. If you want to win, play Monopoly. There you go. Well, I hear you. If winning is an important thing, RPGs are probably not your cup of tea, right? You probably want to look toward board gaming or wargaming or I guess Monopoly. Gosh, I don't know, George. You really want to steer people in that direction? What if somebody takes your advice and then goes and plays Monopoly and then comes back and says, that Lex522, he said Monopoly's a great game. I know you didn't, but whew, that one could come back to haunt you. You better watch out. There are actually times when the Monopoly has been a fun game. So there were days we used to play. My brother Ed and I used to play some really long games on a weekend when we were bored and young, and maybe in the middle of winter, and going out was, or a big rainy day, and we used to play for hours and hours and hours, and we used to call it Thonal Knops instead of calling it Monopoly, which was to kind of portmanteau a word out of marathon and monopoly, I guess. Thonal Knops, man, that's a memory I hadn't had for a while. We played all the time. Games lasted for hours. Yeah, they were long games, and we did all the kind of house rule type of stuff where if you landed on free parking, you collected a bunch of money that was in the middle of the board that had accumulated from any penalties for chance or for community chest cards. So any fines that you paid that weren't due to go to a particular player would go into that pool. So there were big swings when somebody who was either way out ahead already, and then they couldn't be caught once they got their mitts on that big old chunk. But it was always some money that would allow a player to make a comeback if they were lucky enough to land on it after having poor luck with their rolls and landing on everybody else's rented properties and not having enough money to build up their own. So suddenly a big influx of cash would help them out tremendously. Put them back in the game, right? And that's okay. I guess in some ways that's not a bad thing. I got this too wide, don't I? Yeah, there we go. That was meant to be. Yeah. Guess we can edge it out a little bit more. Like to have these things ready for the next show, right? Anywho, I think we're about at that time, so I guess the only thing that's left to say is thank you very much for anybody who's following the channel, who is up on in that place. I appreciate it. I also, Mark will draft and send out pre-gens early for the Saturday game or select pregame. No, we've got a 5-hour slot, and I prefer that everybody be there together choosing their pre-gens, because it gives you the chance to learn the other players and kind of learn who wants what. And also, I don't want people, by virtue of getting there first, to have first crack at something and dibs on anything. I want everything available to everybody at the same time. And if two people both want to play, I don't know, two people have a penchant for playing clerics, roll off. Roll a 20-sider. High one gets the pick, and then the person who didn't get it should choose something else. And then it's the luck of the dice. Everybody's had an equal chance, and it's all random that way. And once you get a character going, then there'll be half a dozen characters available, and they're all high-level characters. So there's no dogs in this group. Nobody's going to be playing a first-level magic user, popping off that first spell and throwing darts the rest of the session. Everybody's got a lot of stuff they'll be able to do during the game, and we had a blast. I think we have one or two players that are. Roll20 will just be for people to see what's going on, and we will use a Discord chat. The OK Grognard Show Discord channel will be in play. I'll send out links to that. just after noon on Saturday so that everybody has them, right before the event. And we'll get everybody in that room and everything. I think this worked out last time that most people happen to be on Facebook as well. So when I did have trouble getting a hold of somebody, maybe their spam filter was eating the email or something. But yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We're good. You and me, we can even PM here on Twitch, which I'll have up and running anyway if we have any difficulty with emails. But we're all set to go. Once again, thanks to everybody who is here. If you're on Twitch, be sure and follow the channel and then chime in on the chat stream, because if you do, we put you on a little list that we keep track of people that are actual people. We just want to make sure you're not a bot. It throws you into a weekly giveaway pool. We randomly select somebody from each week. We've given away 16 badges so far to Virtual Gamehole Con in early November. And we have 4 more weeks of those giveaways, 4 more Mondays. And then we do it on weekly news and announcement day. So we're looking forward to that. Hey, if you're free this weekend, Saturday's full. We've got 2 spots open for the Sunday. Thank you again, George, for joining in on Saturday. I'll make sure we have a very good time. Also, 10 a.m. tomorrow and always is when we have the show. Tomorrow we'll be in on GMing tips. Friday is about building adventures. GM reviews on Saturday. Rules retrospective on Sunday. Weekly news and announcements Monday. Cartography and world building on Tuesday. Then back around the horn to campaign discussion again next Wednesday. If you're catching up with this on YouTube, thank you very much. Please do subscribe to the channel and do us a favor and throw us a little thumbs up. Maybe make a comment if you have some constructive criticism, because it's always nice making the show a little better with advice from people that have been watching and listening and enjoying. So, thank you, everybody. This is the OK Grognard Show from beautiful Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. Bye-bye.